Hi everyone and welcome to another video. In today's episode we're going to be talking about the top 5 mistakes that I used to make which used to make my fatigue worse. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kassem and on this channel we cover the latest health and wellness tips to help take your health and well-being to the next level. I'm a structural engineer and for more than 10 years I used to suffer with chronic fatigue syndrome until I finally found the tools that helped me recover. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is ignoring warning signs. Now, for me, in my situation, when I was dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, I used to ignore anxiety and stress. Anxiety and stress in my situation were the top mental stressors that used to exacerbate my condition and make my symptoms feel worse. This used to happen, particularly in the workspace and my working environment. I used to work in a very demanding job where I used to have to concentrate a lot in order to be able to get work done, particularly working as a design engineer. But gradually over time, I realized that the mental stressors were actually having a big impact on me, both mentally and physically. Coming up at number 2, the mistake that I used to make was constantly pushing through. As an engineer, I had lots of work commitments and deadlines that I had to adhere to. And in order to make those things happen in the workplace, I used to push through my limits. I used to work very late at night. I used to clock in early in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and clock out at 9 o'clock at night. This was before I actually had the official diagnosis that I had chronic fatigue syndrome. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was wrong with me exactly. But what I did know is that I had a lot of work on my plate and I wanted to always get that done. So that was the second biggest mistake that I used to make. I used to push through when my body was telling me to slow down in order to rest, recompose myself and relax. Coming up at number 3, exercising too hard. Now, because I couldn't perform very well physically, I thought that I needed to hit the extra hours in the gym in order to build myself back to where I used to be. This may have been the case, before I got sick with chronic fatigue syndrome. Everyone knows that as you go into the gym, in order to be able to be stronger, you need to lift more weights and push yourself to your limits. This isn't the case for those people that are suffering with chronic fatigue syndrome, and it certainly wasn't the case for me when I was there at the time. What we need to do is that we need to identify where our limits are and incorporate the right type of movement and the right type of exercise, all in accordance to where our limits are. The key is not to push through the limits because that's what exacerbates our symptoms. So that was the third thing that I had to keep in mind during my recovery. Coming up with number 4, the mistake that I used to make was that I always used to compare myself to healthy people. Now, when you're suffering with chronic fatigue syndrome, the immediate thing that you see is the healthy people around you. And the first thing that you start to analyze is your condition in comparison to how people are immediately next to you. Your friends, your family, your colleagues. You start to observe the emotions of the people around you. You see people happy, you see people laughing, you see people having a good time in their lives, and your reaction is that, oh gosh, why am I so sick and why are the other people so happy? Life is unfair, and you start to overanalyze the situation. One thing that I was able to identify from at some stage during my recovery is that mental stressors exacerbate our symptoms. It's very, very difficult to make ourselves recover whilst we have all of these mental stressors. The truth of the matter is that everyone has a unique journey in their lives. When it comes to recovery, one person's recovery story will look different to another person's, and that also applies to life as well. Some people have struggled with their health, with their wealth. Some people struggle with relationships, with friends, their social networks. Sometimes it's all of the above all together. So it's important to realize when you're recovering from chronic fatigue syndrome, not to compare yourself to the people around you. I know it's harder said than done. So we need to realize that, and we need to keep in mind to let go of fear as much as possible. Fear of our symptoms is what keeps us stuck being sick. And finally, coming up at number 5 is being a yes man. For me, in my personal experience, I used to say yes to a lot of things, whether it was that extra project or that extra task that had to be done at work. I used to let these things pile up on top. and it would make my recovery very, very difficult. In order for us to be able to find out where we are in our recovery journey, and in order to improve our recovery, we need to learn where to say yes and when we should say no to things. For me, I had to say no to a lot of things in order to start recovery again. I needed to say no to things at work. I then needed to say no to the job that I was working in. I needed to change country. I needed to change environment. I needed to change my social circles. I needed to change a lot of things in order to put myself back into a calm state in order to start recovering again. Until the next video, my name is Kassem. Thanks so much for watching.